All right, bruh fans. Well, I did get confirmation that last week, episode 11, was indeed the mid-season finale of season 3. So, this video was just kind of giving my thoughts on season 3A overall. I'm not going to be doing a review because, folks, I've done a review on every single episode. Check out the Bruh playlist, episodes 1 through 11 of season 3, as well as every stinking episode of episodes 1 and 2. I've already talked about. I give my scores, and I just kind of want to give my thoughts on, okay, the first half of season 3. Here are my thoughts. Here's the good, here's the bad, and here's what I hope, gets picked up on, if not, develop more in the back half of season 3. Apparently, they're going to start filming season 4, I believe, in early August, if I'm not mistaken. I did the video a couple days ago about Tyler maybe he won't be the director of next season. So let's jump into it. Now, season 3, sadly, I feel falls into the same category as Sisters and the Oval of not being as good as the seasons that came before. I don't know what it is. I mean, in Tyler Perry Viacom writing, I don't know. Third time's the charm used to mean the opposite of how I feel about Sister Season 3, The Oval Season 3, and now Bruh Season 3. I think the only show is Tyler Perry's Ruthless Season 3 that just went above and beyond, where I'm like, damn, this is really good compared to like season 2 or even season 1. But the other 3 shows I've mentioned, I don't know what it is, but they just seem to fall off a cliff. I think right off the bat, Bruh has that. And the sad part is, the sad part about talking about season 3 and not really liking it all that much? Before season 3 came out, I was single-handedly responsible of creating a clash between fan bases online when I said, hey, here are like 10 reasons Bruh is better than Sisters. Keep in mind, at that time, I was only referring to the first 2 seasons of Bruh because 3 hasn't came out yet. And I was really comparing Bruh to like, if I remember correctly, this was prior to the Sisters season 4B. So I was really grading the first 2 seasons of Bruh versus Sisters 1, 2, 3 in the first half of 4. And it's the fact that Bruh had a smaller ensemble cast, and you had some development. Hell, one of the Bruhs got married. Miss Alice is around all the time, unlike, Miss Lisa on Sisters. And look, check out the videos and whatnot. I already went over the various reasons why. And I really, that was a hill I was ready to die on. The fact that Bruh was better than Sisters. And then season 3 came out. And I'm not saying Bruh season 3 is worse than some of the Sister stuff we've gotten. But I will say this. The fact that season 3 of Bruh has so many problems, I feel kind of made me feel embarrassed of like, damn, I mean, here I was talking about how great the show is, but then season 3 comes out and there's a lot of, I don't know. It's kind of like, when you're driving on the highway, the road is smooth, you got the yellow lines in the middle, and then you gotta take, a turn, go off the, unbeaten path, and then you gotta go on a road that's a bit narrow, it's unmarked, and, you did a lot of turns. You're in, like, the back country. Then you make a turn off that road, and then you're driving on a bunch of gravel, and then once you get off that, you're on some dirt. You're on the dirt road. Look, I live in the woods and whatnot, so I know what I'm talking about. And that's literally what it was like for Bruh. It's like, yeah, smooth sailing. Okay, let's make this turn. Okay, season 3 is a bit wobbly, but okay, it's rough around the edges on this gravel, and then you get to dirt. And I feel like that was Bruh season 3. If you watch my review for the mid-season finale, episode 11, you know I probably scored that. That was a 4 out of 10, so that was either the lowest episode of the season or one of the lowest episodes, because I'm just looking at it like, okay, there's a lot that I feel needs to be fixed. And given that season 3, obviously the back half is clearly filmed already, and season 4 is about to be filmed, so I guess if anybody in the Tyler Perry camp is watching this, you still got a few weeks to make some changes if necessary. But I think that one of the issues with Bruh is that, and the Oval kind of shares the same thing. I guess the only difference in Bruh is that not everybody gets killed off. It's like when you have compelling characters and storylines, but they are written out of the show for one reason or another, or just straight up disappear. That's sad, because at the beginning, I liked the character of Lydia. I liked the character of Darla. But for whatever reason in season 3, I'm just confused as to what the hell is happening. You know, the fact that Lydia's character is funny at times, I'm not going to lie. I mean, the fact that there's sometimes that deep voice, it kind of takes me, a second to go, wow, this really reminds me of Tyler Perry when Medea's on stage or in a movie, and then Tyler comes out, and it's kind of like that. But with Lydia, I feel like also, disclaimer, the back half of season 3 still hasn't happened yet, so some of the complaints and whatnot I say in this video, they might be remedied in the back half of season 3. And that's a good thing, because I could be like, you know what, here's what I think the weak points of season 3 are, but then the back half of the season fixes everything, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But for me, I thought Lydia could have been a good character in the fact that, yeah, she went to jail for killing her ex-boyfriend and whatnot, but it's like, there's more to the story. It's not the fact that she just went mad and killed him, went for the jugular, but it's the fact that he was an abuser, he would beat me up or that kind of thing. And one time he went too far, and the only way to protect myself was to go for the jugular, hence why I got locked up, but now I'm out. And then it could be one of those situations where John would jump to conclusions. Miss Alice, like, yeah, this is my kind of girl. And then John warms up to Lydia because they actually have a non-comedic talk. But now you have the whole, I want to have your baby even though I don't know you. Then I'm just going to, be creepy and stuff. And I think, to me, to be honest, I think the worst part of the Lydia storyline so far is how Miss Alice treats the entire situation. I don't know. I think season 2 Miss Alice was my favorite Miss Alice. I mean, she was still the same character, but I do feel she was reeled in a bit more. In season 3, I feel like we're back to that season 1 where, okay, we don't need like 7 minutes of her going on about how she, quote unquote, wants her son to die to get insurance, or she wants to have sex and, to satisfy Chrissy or whatever. We don't really need that. I feel like Miss Alice is good in small doses, but I feel like when there's just like, okay, we need to fill in this 7 to 10 minute scene, so we just need Miss Alice going on a tangent, we don't need that. I feel like there are a lot more useful things that could be done with those kind of scenes to develop character. Like in season 2 when, who was it? Greg. Well, both Greg and Tom made house calls to Miss Alice because she thought she was having a heart attack. She thought that she was pregnant or something like that. I forgot. But I thought that would have been an interesting, or was it menopause? I think Greg was the one who said it might be menopause, because the whole Tom thing, it was just that she had gas, and that took up like half of an episode. But here's the thing. I was thinking that could have been a turning point for Miss Alice, like to not say she wouldn't still be a comedic character, but she would be toned down. Like, I can't be running with these guys like I used to. I need to face the fact that I am getting older, because I am old. And she would have been more of a wise, sage character. Again, that's not to say she couldn't have a couple of comedic moments here or there, but it would just help with taking the character more seriously. I get it, bruh, it's more of a sitcom comedy than Sisters, but I do feel like Miss Alice is still over the top. Just too over the top. And as a result, the whole thing with her trying to push Lydia and John isn't working for me or John because it doesn't make sense. I mean, what good mother, well then again I use good mother with Miss Alice, so it's like, would want her son to date someone like Lydia? Or at the very least, you would have, maybe if it was just nothing more than a scene. I mean, we had a Miss Alice and Lydia scene, but I think we needed another one where it goes back to what I said about why Lydia killed her ex. I mean, hell, didn't she say in the sandwich shop that she did because they got into a fight that started over him not wanting to be a father, that kind of thing? I just feel like if Miss Alice saw the sensible side of Lydia, then she could vouch for her, as opposed to, I like her because she's not afraid to kill somebody, that kind of thing, you know? So sadly, it just makes me miss Charlie, the love interest from season 1 for John, even more, because again, that's one character who was kicked to the curb. Season 1, I mean, think about it this way, because Tom, his character, I still don't know why his character disappeared for back half of season 2. I guess his actor had to film stuff, I don't know. But regardless, we know Greg stepped in to be kind of like Tom 2.0. But here's the point I'm trying to make. Tom, a lot of his story stuff from season 1 got just, I don't know, removed from the show. Again, I guess it's because the actor wasn't available to film the entirety of season 2 or whatever. But, you know, you had the Valerie storyline. You know, his female boss who was maybe or maybe not coming on to him. The woman who was being physically abused by her cop husband. There were a lot of elements for Tom that just got completely removed from the story at the beginning of season 2. And from there, you know, season 2 was kind of setting up for him to leave, to have Greg step in. And now in season 3, we're giving Tom some storyline stuff. And like I said in the finale, or mid-season finale, my favorite part was the Tom apartment scene, because I'm like, thank God he's learning not to repeat the same mistake he did with Valerie by, you know, having drunk sex with Dina. But then we move on, and I'm not going to move on from Tom completely, but, well, then again, when you look at season 3, Tom had made his return. He said his mom's doing better. He's fine with Greg being his roommate, and, you know, he's checking in on Mike. So Tom is pretty much the same character. He's there to, you know, check on his bros to make sure everything's good. You know, he gave Bill advice about trying to see things through with Regina, but then also recognizing whether or not he's sacrificing his own happiness for her. So, you know, it's all about balance. So yeah, you know, Tom is still Tom. But when I think about other characters who just disappeared, I was just highly disappointed that Natalie was removed, because I remember towards the end of season 2 when it was revealed that, hey, you know, I work as one of the rehab counselors here, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a great way for her character to still remain part of the show by being linked with Mike through his, you know, rehab storyline, as, you know, Bill got married to Regina, so it isn't about her being around to, you know, be a possible scapegoat for him and have an affair. You can still have this character around, be linked to another main character, and it makes sense. Something that Sisters needs to take a lesson from. In some of the characters who have, you know, outstayed their welcome in terms of being relevant to the storyline. Now, in Bruh, they do a better job with this, and like I said, I was praising that, but then Natalie is just gone, and it sucks. So I feel like Bruh has the issue of introducing new characters, great concepts, potential development for one or more main cast members, but then they are just removed entirely. So I think that was one of the most disappointing things. I'll briefly stay on Mike because Mike was barely in the season. Not going to say his presence wasn't missed, but or a necessity. When Mike was on screen, it was important, but it makes you worry, because it's like, you know, he's in his loft with like the alcohol and whatnot, like Tom pointed out. So it's like, when left to his own devices, what is Mike, you know, getting up to? But then at the same time, in terms of the show, not a lot of time has passed from the last time we saw Mike to, you know, the ending of season 3A, so it's quite possible he's fine. but I wouldn't be 100% certain of that due to, synopsis for the back half of the season. Because if you look at IMDb, you have the synopsis for episodes 12 through 20. And in episode 13, the guys show concern for Mike. And then you have episode 16, Mike fights to hide his demons. So, Mike could still be in a situation where he's acting like everything's okay, but things aren't really what they seem. Because then you go over to episode 18, Pam's determination to help Mike may have been a little too late. And then, unfortunately, episode 19, a serious situation brings the bros together in an unexpected way. And the guys are left to try to save Mike's life when he is found comatose due to an overdose in episode 20. So simply put, I feel like the back half of the season is going to give us more Mike because of his lack of an appearance in the first half of the season, which, again, I'm okay with. So I don't have a problem with the Mike storyline. The only thing I miss is the Natalie aspect of it. So Pam, like I said in my mid-season finale review, she's still on the making the guys miserable at all costs thing that she's been on since season 2. And then all of a sudden she's like, you know what? I gotta say, Bill, I agree with him. It's a bit much to have your mama and these dogs in this little place. And Regina, I don't want to harp on this because, like I said, I feel like my season 3 mid-season finale review really broke it down. It did her no favor. So the motivations of these characters, I feel, is all over the place, and I think that Tyler really needs to reel it in terms of what exactly does Regina want, why is she doing what she's doing. But Jeremy, she clearly expressed what she was doing and why in episode 11, revenge. Yeah, but when you compare that to season 2 and the early parts of season 3, it definitely felt like Pam was the one who was like telling, ooh, do this to test Bill to make sure he's going to be loyal, which I feel is ridiculous because we know Bill ain't shit. So if nothing else, season 3, this has been the first time in the show's run that I felt bad for Bill. Like, look, yeah, he got into this, but at the same time, even I feel bad for him. Season 1, I had no remorse because it was painfully stupid with all the bros telling him not to do something. And I gotta say what you want about asshole Mike, but he's like, look, Bill is a grown man. We told him not to go to that wedding to crash it. If he's going to go, then he's going to go. It is what it is. And I feel like at some point, you got to develop that Mike attitude, because if you don't, you're just going to be running, losing hair, driving yourself crazy, and you'll be bald as Bill trying to, stop someone from doing something. It's just like Mike says, we're all grown. We all got to make decisions. Not always good ones, but if I try to tell you something as a bruh to give you advice and you do the opposite, I'm not wasting my time. And I feel like that's the attitude. It kind of reminds me of Danny from Sisters, where it's like, look, I'm going to tell you some real talk. And if you accept that, great. You're a grown up. You don't have to do what I'm telling you to do. But I'm just suggesting that maybe you need to think twice before you do something. Because they kept saying, Bill, if you crash this wedding, she's going to expect you to get married sooner than later, because guess what? She was already getting married. And I think Regina looks bad because she blames Bill for crashing the wedding, which he did, which was wrong. But she was the one who didn't want to get married to Peter. She was the one who didn't go through with getting married. Not to mention, she was the one who had sex with Bill in the bathroom of the sandwich shop the night before her wedding day. I love the actress who portrays Hilda. I don't really dislike Hilda. I honestly don't. It's just one of those things where I think her presence really adds in the generational gap of how things were done in her day versus the modern day woman in dating life in general and married life. So I can't be too mad at her. It's just one of those things where at first, Regina was like, oh, my mom's playing about staying for whatnot. And, yeah, at first it seemed like that. But now she's straight up like, oh, he's just going to have to get used to it. My other boyfriends did. But it's like, so are you saying that your mom always moved in whenever you were living with another boyfriend. No, again, Tyler just needs to make the writing more structured, more concrete, because I think one of the most confusing things about Bruh, and don't get me wrong, this is true of his other shows as well, character motivations are kind of all over the place, and it's hard to really tell or gauge what a character is trying to achieve when it changes. It's like water, it changes, form every episode. 1 minute Regina's cold as ice, the next minute she is fluid as a stream going down, a mountainside, and then another minute she's raging like a tsunami. So it's just one of those things where make it make sense. Heck, it's kind of funny. Episode 19 is called Troubled Waters. Ha! But moving on, let's see. We already talked about John, Miss Alice, Tom, Mike, Pam, and Regina. Oh yeah, the Pam thing. I was a bit surprised with how quickly she kind of came around, and her and Mike had a moment at his loft. I was like, the last time y'all really interacted in terms of being in person, Mike was getting physical with you and saying all these things and kicked you out. And I know you spoke once or twice on the phone since then, so I was thinking that Pam would be a bit more reserved, not really willing to be as open with Mike as she was. But I mean, it was still a great scene, but I would think there would be a bit more caution on her end. It's almost like the events of season 2 really didn't happen, when I feel like it should have been a bit more, like not them having sex right off the rip in season 3, but just like, hey, let's sit down, have a conversation, and slowly try to work through this, that kind of thing. But maybe that's because, again, since Mike wouldn't have that much of a presence in season 3, they wanted to make the most of the only scene they had together in the first part, I guess. But it is what it is. See, I talked about Bill. I mean, the whole Claudia thing, I think Claudia is a great character. I'm not just saying that because she's attractive, and I don't know why, but aggressive seems sexy to me. I don't know what Tyler Perry shows have done to me. Aggressive, crazy women, just something about them. Oh boy. It goes back to what I said before about Bill being a character I kind of feel sorry for once this season, and that I think for one of the first times, we aren't just seeing Bill being a dog. We actually understand why this dog is barking. If that makes sense. It's like I actually see, okay, yeah, it's like it's not Regina who literally pushed Bill into cheating, but based on her actions and her lack of sensitivity to Bill, I mean, a lot has been thrown at him. I mean, it goes back to what I said earlier about the bros telling Bill, look, if you crash this wedding and try to get her back, she's going to expect you to man up and get married sooner than later. Are you ready for that? Yeah, man, I'm ready. But then I do feel like the whole mother and the dog thing, yeah, that's way too much. If it was like her just staying for like a week, like, hey, you crashed my daughter's wedding, I need to know the kind of man you are. And it doesn't make a lot of sense because the way Regina said it, her and Bill were together for, a good amount of time. She was really in love with him. So why is her... So Bill and her mother never met? It doesn't make sense. So, yeah, like her trying to get a feel for who he is because, look, I don't really know you like that, and you just up and crashed my daughter's wedding and got married. I need to know more about you. Like, if it was one of those situations where she was there to make sure Regina made the right choice, I can understand that. But then just moving in and taking over, that's the thing I don't really like about Miss Hilda. Everything else I think is fine. I think that, yeah, we're seeing why Bill is cheating. Makes a lot of sense. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but I can see how he was pushed into it. And then at the same time, the whole crazy killer husband thing of Claudia, I'm like, damn, I mean, first Lydia, now this crazy dude whose name I forget. That seems a bit much, but hey, it is what it is. Now, I wonder what this is going to make Bill do. Is he going to be more willing to be a husband or just continue with the affair? I think it was probably so good he's going to continue with the affair because his married life is still going to be awful. So, just to kind of round things out, I think the Greg and Darla stuff might be the only things left to talk about. So I want to make sure I covered everything. And like I said before, I don't hate season 3, but based off what I've seen so far, maybe the back half will save it. This is probably my least favorite season, just because of everything I've listed in the video. If you made it this far, heck, you're a trooper. I appreciate you. And just know, and you know that I'm not here to hate. I'm here to just really break things down. I know some people are like, ha ha, and this is what you get for saying bro was better than sisters. Rude. But I do feel like when it comes to the Darla and Greg storyline, not going to harp on this. Not really. I'm not part of the LGBTQ community, so I can't speak upon what proper representation looks like in this. But kind of like, you know, when speaking on sisters or even the haves and the have-nots, the likes of the Jeffrey, Justin, Madison stuff on the haves and have-nots, the way Maurice is portrayed on sisters, and even to an extent the likes of Kyle on the Oval and Donald, I've had people who are a part of said community who have said they don't feel like they are properly represented in Tyler Perry media because more often than not, these like gay or bi characters are depicted to be overly flamboyant, thirsty, and a walking, talking stereotype as opposed to being properly represented characters. That's a lot of feedback I have seen in comments and tweets and whatnot over the years. I would say season 2 Darla is much better than what we've seen in season 3, because remember when episode 5 came out? Wait, I think that was the episode where Mike and Pam talked at his apartment. Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, in the blink of an eye, John's past catches up with him when he is reintroduced to Officer Darla Grills. That episode opening, I will not forget it. If you go back to my review, I even said it. I watched the recap from episode 4, and then I watched the first scene, and Darla just said, I ought to kick your effing ass. And I'm like, wait, what? I went back like 3 times to make sure. Did I miss something? Like, did the recap of episode 4 like include like an audio thing from, you know, John or something? And then Darla responded to that. But that was the episode. I'm like, yep, I don't like Darla anymore. And then Greg fell into the same category of, okay, y'all are doing way too much. And then as the season went on, you know, when Darla was at John and Miss Alice's apartment to, you know, respond to the call about the place being ransacked and torn apart, I didn't like her in that scene. Then, of course, the episode where she was apparently peeking outside of her door to wait for Greg to get home. That episode. Then the following episode where she tried to apologize and her and Dina teamed up on Greg. I didn't like that. Then the episode where she came over with her new date to kind of rub it in Greg's face. I didn't like that. Basically, I feel like, and I've read some comments on this, there was the you know how on BET Plus is social media, because for some reason, bruh still does not have social media pages, and I feel like that is so messed up. Not a Twitter, not an Instagram. But in any case, they put up a clip, a little clip from each episode, and they had the clip of Darla, you know, flaunting this new guy in front of Greg's face, and then calling him, you know, a bitch and whatnot. And I read a lot of comments on there, and a lot of comments didn't like the way Darla was represented in that scene. And I think that the general consensus is, and I'm getting this from all the comments, and I've had private conversations with some people online about this, and it's the fact that the way Darla is the way Darla has responded and reacted to the likes of John, and by extension Greg, it's like you're being labeled as someone who's like transphobic, homophobic, whatever the proper term is to use. Basically, if you don't want to date, or if you don't understand a person's sexual orientation, then you're automatically labeled someone who must hate all people like that, or you're a bitch, you're an MFer, you know what, you're awful. I think that's sending the wrong message. It's kind of like, and look, like I said, I'm not part of that community, so let me just use an example I am a part of, which is a Christian. You know, grew up in the church, went to Liberty University, and, you know, Christianity. When did I get baptized? When I was like 7 or 8. And, you know, as you grow up, you learn that there are going to be people of different religions. Not everybody believes in God. There are some people who follow their own religion. They follow their own gods, or God or gods. And then there are some people who have no religion that they follow at all. And as you walk in, you know, forward into life, it gets to a point where you understand you're going to form relationship and connections with people of different beliefs. But that doesn't mean that you have to hate a person for having, you know, different beliefs. I remember, you know, friends I had in like middle school and whatnot. We went to high school and college. Not saying we went to like college together, but as we got older, you know, we would have some pretty in-depth conversations. And I think that the goal, you know, of course, in Christianity, it's about going through life and making new disciples across the land, searching far and wide, each Christian to understand the power that's inside. Sorry, Pokemon quote. I'm actually browsing on GameStop for Pokemon cards as I'm recording this, so I'm kind of multitasking. But in any case, it's the fact that you're not always going to convert people. You know, it's the fact that it's about loving one another and having a, you know, respect. I think that I'm actually intrigued. You know, like one thing about me, I actually love like Greek mythology, for example, but that doesn't mean I follow or study or, you know, I follow or believe in the gods of Olympus. Like I don't pray to Zeus and whatnot, but I do find that kind of history and that quote unquote religion fascinating. So it's like, yeah, I'm a Christian, but I don't mind learning about another person's culture. Heck, you know, I love Marvel. What new show? Miss Marvel on Disney Plus. They just wrapped up their final episode this morning, and I learned a lot about the Pakistani, you know, religions and whatnot, and I found that quite fascinating because I didn't know much of anything about it. So to learn how that was integrated into the show, into the character, into the culture, I love it. So yeah, learning about more religions and culture is pretty fun. But the thing about it is, I think that it's quite dangerous and it kind of hurts your cause if you want to be understood or, you know, even treated like a human being in general by another person, just to kind of label somebody as hate. Because I think for me, John represented kind of like the somewhat everyday person in that, hey, based on, you know, how I was raised, where I grew up, the LGBTQ lifestyle wasn't a common thing. The transgenders, the homosexuals, that wasn't something that was common in my area. And yeah, he was a little shit for, you know, making life hard for Darla in college. And, you know, thankfully he wasn't the guy that she like dated and then found out, you know, she was trans and, you know, put hands on her and made life hell, and then that caused her to leave college, go to, you know, police academy, to never go through that again. Good backstory. But I think she lost points for me when she just went off on John like that. It's the fact that John apologized, and instead of, you know, accepting that, she just really, the nicest way to put it is to just get in her feelings as opposed to showing understanding. And the fact that John said, well, I'm not used to it. And I feel like the one thing that really irks me about anybody of like a specific group, whether it be religion, sexual orientation or whatnot, is, well, you better get used to it. No, I feel like that doesn't really help out with the message there. It's like, when you're trying to force me into something, to get used to something or whatnot, I'm not going to be inclined to do so. If I'm going to try to, you know, I feel like John was extending the olive branch of, hey, yeah, my bad, I apologize, I didn't grow up, you know, in a situation like that, so, you know, hey, there it is, I don't understand. So instead of saying, hey, I appreciate that, just, you know, maybe be more open-minded, understand there are people like that, like me out there, you know, just don't persecute them the way you did me in college. And John's like, okay, if you said that, I would have been fine. But instead, it's like she snapped the olive branch, and it's like, well, maybe if you be more open-minded. It's like, yeah, basically it kind of felt like Darla was saying, well, maybe you should be with a trans person to kind of, open your mind. But John's like, nah, I'm not trying to be that open. And then Darla just went off feeling like she was the one who was offended, as opposed to, yeah, maybe I was a bit too, aggressive with John. No, it's just one of those things where I think Darla's character, because I remember having a conversation with another fan at the ending of season 2 where I really like the fact that it kind of it went above expectation, because I thought one of the most interesting dynamics of season 2 was when it came to Greg, would the storyline be Greg finding out that Darla is a transgender woman after they've, seen each other for quite a while, and his reaction to it. And then the subject would be whether or not a trans person should make it known to the person that they're seeing, they're dating or whatever, that they are trans. And that would have been an interesting subject, because if I'm not mistaken, this is the first transgender storyline within a Tyler Perry show, or, whatever that I've reviewed. But instead, they did another interesting thing, which was having Greg kind of not understanding boundaries, and no means no. Remember, the reason he found out that Darla was trans was because he kept forcing himself on her, and then he copped the feel, and then that's how he found out. But now we get to season 3, and it's like, Greg is having okay, I don't think I can have sex with you thing, but they are still having a good time together. And now it's just a big mess, because both of them just seem to whine and complain and go off on people at the slightest inconvenience, or just having a temper tantrum. So I don't really know how things can change between these two in season 3B. I do think that during the behind the scenes season 3 video that was posted, they will be going out on like a date or something, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I just put it this way. Based on how Darla acted during season 3A, I don't see how Greg would try to go out with her again, because she said and did a lot of mean things to him. And Greg, him letting outside influences sway his decision making kind of reminds me of how Sabrina is easily swayed in Sisters when it comes to like the Calvin thing, but we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, now let me make sure I covered everything. I'm looking at my notes here. I think that's about it. I think for the most part, season 3 definitely has some work to do when it comes to like the Regina and Bill marriage. Get that thing annulled before it's too late. I feel like neither one of them, despite having feelings for each other, they really don't belong with each other. It's the fact that Bill isn't ready to grow up. Regina was clearly, as Pam said, you were in love with Peter, you were ready to get married, and it seems like you just jumped from one marriage to another. You went from a sure thing in a good marriage with Peter to just a hot mess with Bill. It just doesn't make sense to me. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below here. Are you excited for more Mike? Do you hope that the Lydia stuff kind of gets resolved during the back half of the season? It just seems to me that John needs to, didn't he get a restraining order? He just put in a restraining order. Yeah. And then Miss Alice, she's going to be toned down a bit. Do you think that things are going to work out with Tom, after the Dina debacle? Do you think he'll actually find another more stable woman to be with? We'll just have to wait and see. But like I said, season 3 so far, probably the worst in my opinion, but maybe the back half will make up for it. I'm hopeful. And regardless, even if season 3 turns out to be bad, in the long run, in terms of the entirety of it, there is a season 4, so maybe things will pick up. Alright guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Hit like and subscribe. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. And I'll talk to you in the next one.